The morning sun cast a golden glow over the city skyline as Maya hurried down the busy street, clutching her folder tightly to her chest. Today was the day. Her big interview at Hamilton and Company, one of the most prestigious marketing firms in the city. She had worked tirelessly for this opportunity, balancing 2 part-time jobs while finishing her degree. This was her chance to change everything. She glanced at her watch. 8:45 a.m. She had 15 minutes to get there. If she walked fast, she'd make it just in time. As she approached the crosswalk, a commotion caught her eye. An older man in a sharp navy suit was struggling with a fallen briefcase, its contents spilling onto the pavement. Papers fluttered away as pedestrians walked past, some barely glancing at the scene. Maya hesitated. She was already running late. But something inside her wouldn't let her ignore the man's distress. With a deep breath, she rushed over, kneeling to gather the scattered documents. "Sir, let me help you," she said, stuffing papers back into the briefcase. The man, clearly flustered, ran a hand through his graying hair. "Thank you, miss. These papers are very important," she offered a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I got them." It took only a couple of minutes, but every second felt like an hour to Maya. When she handed him the neatly packed briefcase, the man looked at her with genuine gratitude. "You have no idea how much this means to me," he said. "I had an important meeting, and losing these documents would have been a disaster." Maya nodded. "Glad I could help." She took a quick step back, ready to sprint to her interview, but her heart sank when she checked her watch. 8:59 a.m. There was no way she'd make it on time. She swallowed the lump in her throat, disappointment pressing against her chest. All her hard work, her preparation, gone in an instant. The man must have noticed her expression. "Are you okay?" Maya forced a small smile. "Yeah, I just had an interview, but I don't think I'll make it now." He frowned. "Where?" "Hamilton and Company, marketing." A strange look crossed his face. "That's interesting." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a sleek business card, handing it to her. Maya's breath caught when she read the name. Charles Hamilton. She blinked. Charles Hamilton, CEO of Hamilton and Company. Her heart pounded. You're... "Yes," he said, smiling. "And you just showed me exactly the kind of person I want on my team." Maya's world spun as she realized what had just happened. "Before we continue the story, let us know, where are you watching from?" Maya stood frozen, staring at the business card in her hand. Her mind struggled to process what had just happened. She had given up her one shot at the interview, only to discover that she had just helped the man who could change her life. Charles Hamilton watched her with an amused expression, as if he could see the whirlwind of emotions passing over her face. "I take it you weren't expecting this," he said with a chuckle. Maya finally found her voice. I thought I had blown my chance." He nodded thoughtfully. "If you had left me there struggling just to make it to your interview on time, you might have." Her stomach twisted. Had she been tested? Was this some sort of elaborate setup? Charles seemed to sense her thoughts. "Relax. This wasn't a test," he assured her. "But it was a lesson in character. And you, young lady, have shown me something rare, integrity." Maya exhaled, feeling a mix of relief and disbelief. "So, does this mean—" "It means I'd like you to come in for a private interview," he said, smiling. "If you're interested, of course." Her heart nearly leapt out of her chest. Yes, absolutely. I would love that." Charles nodded approvingly. "Good. Follow me." Maya barely had time to process what was happening as she followed him down the street, her legs moving on autopilot. A few minutes later, they entered the grand lobby of Hamilton and Company. It was just as impressive as she had imagined. High ceilings, polished marble floors and an air of quiet efficiency. Employees bustled past, some stealing curious glances at her. The receptionist's eyes widened when she saw Charles. "Good morning, Mr. Hamilton." "Good morning, Janice," he said. "Please let the hiring team know I'm bringing in a candidate for an immediate interview." Maya's pulse quickened. Immediate? Janice gave her a once-over, her gaze lingering on Maya's simple blouse and slacks. Unlike the other candidates waiting in the reception area, dressed in crisp suits and pencil skirts, Maya suddenly felt underdressed. Charles must have noticed her hesitation. He leaned in slightly and said in a low voice, "You're here because of your character, not your clothes." "Confidence, Maya." She straightened her back, his words giving her the boost she needed. Minutes later, she found herself in a sleek conference room, sitting across from 3 senior executives. Charles sat at the head of the table, hands folded, watching intently. One of the executives, a sharp-looking woman in a navy blazer, scanned Maya's resume. "You have an impressive academic background," she noted. "But what interests me more is why Mr. Hamilton personally brought you in." Maya swallowed, then took a deep breath. "I was on my way to my scheduled interview when I saw Mr. Hamilton struggling with his briefcase. I knew stopping to help would make me late, but I couldn't ignore someone who needed assistance. I didn't expect anything in return. I just did what I thought was right." There was a brief silence. Then Charles spoke. "That's exactly why she deserves to be here." The executives exchanged looks. One of them smiled. "Let's begin," the woman in the blazer said. Maya clasped her hands together, steadied herself, and prepared to prove she belonged. The room was silent for a moment, except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Maya could feel the weight of their gazes on her, but she refused to let her nerves take over. She had worked too hard to get here. This was her moment to prove herself. The woman in the navy blazer, whose name tag read Rebecca Carter, head of marketing, was the first to speak. "All right, Maya, let's start with a simple question. Why marketing?" Maya took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully. Marketing is more than just selling a product or service. It's about storytelling, about connecting with people in a way that speaks to their needs, emotions, and experiences. Growing up, I watched my mother run a small bakery. She didn't have fancy ads or big campaigns, but the way she engaged with customers, how she made every person feel valued, that was marketing in its purest form. It's about impact, and that's why I love it. Rebecca nodded, seemingly impressed. One of the other executives, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, leaned forward. "That's an interesting perspective. But marketing is also data-driven. How do you balance creativity with analytics?" Maya smiled. "Creativity and data aren't opposites. They work together. Creativity captures attention, but data refines the approach. For example, you can come up with a great campaign idea, but without analyzing customer engagement, demographics, or response rates, you won't know if it's truly effective. I believe the best marketers use both. An idea may start with intuition, but it succeeds with strategy." The man exchanged a glance with Rebecca, who scribbled something on her notepad. Maya's confidence grew. She was holding her own. Then Charles spoke. "Maya, let's say you're leading a campaign for a new product. You pour your heart into it, but the response is underwhelming. How do you handle failure?" Maya didn't hesitate. "I see failure as a learning opportunity. If a campaign doesn't perform well, the first step is understanding why. Was it the messaging, the target audience, the platform? Instead of seeing failure as a dead end, I'd analyze the results, gather feedback, and adapt. The best brands aren't the ones that never fail. They're the ones that learn and evolve." A smile played at the corner of Charles's lips. "That's a good answer." Rebecca leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against her notepad. "Maya, You weren't even supposed to be in this room today, and yet here you are. You made a selfless decision and still managed to impress us. That says a lot about your character." Maya sat up straighter, her heart pounding. Rebecca exchanged a glance with Charles. "I don't need to hear more. I think we'd be making a mistake if we let her walk out of here without an offer." Maya's breath caught in her throat. Charles smiled and turned to her. "Maya, welcome to Hamilton and Company." Her hands trembled slightly as she blinked in disbelief. "Are you offering me the job?" "Yes," Rebecca confirmed, smiling. "We want you on our team." Emotion swelled in Maya's chest. She had walked into this day thinking she had lost everything, only to end up with more than she ever imagined. Charles stood and extended his hand. "You earned this, Maya." She shook his hand firmly, barely containing her excitement. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "I won't let you down." As she left the conference room, a rush of emotions overwhelmed her. Relief, excitement, disbelief. One small act of kindness had changed her entire life. As Maya stepped out of the conference room, the weight of what had just happened finally hit her. She had come in expecting the worst, thinking she had lost her one shot. Instead, she had walked out with a job offer from Hamilton and Company, personally endorsed by the CEO himself. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her folder to her chest, her heart pounding with excitement. The receptionist, Janice, who had earlier given her a skeptical look, now stared at her with wide eyes. "Did you just—" Janice trailed off. Maya grinned. "I got the job." Janice's brows shot up in surprise, but then a knowing smile crept onto her face. "Mr. Hamilton doesn't usually bring in candidates himself. You must have really impressed him." Maya exhaled, still trying to process everything. "I guess so." She exited the building and stepped onto the busy sidewalk, feeling like she was floating. The same city that had felt so intimidating just an hour ago now seemed full of possibilities. Her first instinct was to call her mom. She fumbled for her phone, barely able to type as she dialed. The moment her mother picked up, Maya blurted out, "Mom, I got the job." Her mother gasped, "Baby, what? You did?" "Oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you." Maya laughed, finally letting out the emotions she had been holding back. "Mom, you won't believe how it happened. I was late. I thought I had blown it. But then, I helped this man who dropped his things in the street, and he turned out to be the CEO. He personally took me in for an interview." Silence. Then her mother burst into laughter. "Lord, Maya, you are blessed. You always said doing the right thing matters. And look at that. It led you straight to your dream job." Maya smiled, feeling the truth in her mother's words. "Yeah, I guess it did." As she hung up, she realized something. She wasn't just proud of getting the job. She was proud of how she got it. She hadn't stepped on anyone to get ahead. She hadn't cut corners or played politics. She had simply done what she believed was right, even at the risk of her own success, and it had paid off in the best way possible. She took a deep breath, letting the reality settle in. This was just the beginning. The days that followed felt like a dream for Maya. She'd barely recovered from the shock of landing a job at Hamilton and Company when she received her official welcome email outlining her start date and onboarding schedule. Her first day arrived quicker than she expected, dressed in a navy blue blazer and tailored slacks, an upgrade from the simple outfit she had worn during her surprise interview. Maya stepped into the towering glass building with newfound confidence. The receptionist, Janice, greeted her with a nod of approval. "Looking sharp, Maya. Good luck today." "Thanks, Janice," Maya said, flashing a grateful smile. She took the elevator up to the 15th floor, where new hires were gathered for orientation. As she entered the conference room, she noticed the other fresh recruits, many of whom looked polished, professional, and, honestly, a little intimidating. A young woman with sleek blonde hair and an expensive-looking handbag glanced at Maya's name tag. "Maya? Carter," she read aloud. Her tone wasn't hostile, but there was a distinct note of curiosity. "I don't remember seeing you at the group interviews." Maya's stomach clenched slightly, but she kept her smile in place. "I actually had a different interview process." Another new hire, a tall guy in a designer suit, smirked. "Wait, are you the one Mr. Hamilton personally brought in?" Maya hesitated. Yeah." The blonde woman raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms. "Wow, must be nice to skip the competition." Maya could feel the subtle tension in the air. She knew how it must have looked, like she had gotten some special treatment, like she hadn't earned her place. Before she could respond, a voice from behind spoke up. "You'd be surprised how competition works," said a familiar, deep voice. Maya turned around to see Charles Hamilton standing in the doorway. The entire room fell silent. His sharp blue eyes scanned the new recruits before landing on Maya. "Some of you went through structured interviews, polished your resumes, and practiced your answers," he said. Maya earned her spot by showing character when she thought no one was watching. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is just as important as any degree or experience. Maya swallowed, her chest tightening. Charles turned to her with a small nod. "Welcome to the team, Maya. I'm looking forward to seeing what you bring to the table." And just like that, he walked away, leaving the room in stunned silence. Maya finally turned back to the others. The blonde woman and the tall guy looked at her differently now. Not necessarily as a rival, but with a bit more respect. She straightened her back. "Let's do this." The journey was just beginning. Maya dove headfirst into her new job at Hamilton and Company, determined to prove that she belonged there, not because of luck, but because of her skills and hard work. Her first few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, training sessions, and getting familiar with the fast-paced world of corporate marketing. Unlike her college classes, this was the real deal. Deadlines were tight, expectations were high, and competition was fierce. She was assigned to the brand strategy team, working under Rebecca Carter, the same executive who had vouched for her during the interview. Rebecca was sharp, no nonsense, and had a reputation for being one of the toughest in the company. On her third week, Maya got her first real challenge. Rebecca handed her a thick file and said, "We have a client launch coming up in 2 weeks, Lux Glow Skincare. It's a high-end brand, and we need a fresh social media strategy to attract younger consumers. I want your ideas on my desk by Friday." Maya's heart raced. This was her chance to prove herself. "Got it," she said, determined. She spent the next few days researching the brand, analyzing competitors, and brainstorming ideas. She wanted to create something innovative, something that Lux Glow hadn't tried before. By Thursday night, she was still in the office, scribbling notes and adjusting her presentation slides. Most of her team had already left, but Maya refused to submit anything mediocre. At 9:45 p.m., as she leaned back in her chair, stretching her stiff fingers, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "You're still here?" She turned to see Charles Hamilton standing at the doorway, hands in his pockets. Maya straightened. "Just finishing up a project for Rebecca." He nodded approvingly. "Good. How's it going?" Maya hesitated before answering honestly. "I want it to be perfect. I feel like I have something to prove." Charles studied her for a moment. "You already proved yourself the day you helped a stranger without expecting anything in return." She let out a small breath, appreciating his words. "But," he continued, "since you're working late anyway, let me give you some advice." He walked over and glanced at her notes. "Don't just think about what Lux Glow wants to say. Think about what their customers want to hear. People don't buy products. They buy how products make them feel. Maya's mind clicked. She had been focusing too much on LuxGlow's message, not on their audience's emotions. That makes so much sense, she murmured. Charles smiled. Good. Now go home and get some sleep. You'll think clearer in the morning. Maya grinned. Yes, sir. As he walked out, she realized something. She wasn't just another employee to him. He was mentoring her. And that meant one thing. He saw something in her worth investing in. She wasn't going to let him down. The next morning, Maya arrived at the office early, refreshed and ready. Charles's words had stuck with her all night. People don't buy products. They buy how products make them feel. With a fresh perspective, she tweaked her strategy, shifting the focus from LuxGlow's high-end ingredients to the confidence, empowerment, and glow their products gave their customers. Instead of another generic ad campaign, she crafted a social media movement, #GlowWithConfidence, a campaign featuring real women, unfiltered and unapologetic, sharing their stories of self-love and transformation. By the time she walked into Rebecca Carter's office at 10 a.m., she was feeling more confident than ever. Rebecca barely glanced up from her computer. You have 5 minutes. Maya took a deep breath and launched into her pitch. She explained how today's young consumers craved authenticity over perfection, how the campaign would leverage user-generated content, influencer testimonials, and interactive challenges to create engagement. She ended with, "This isn't just a campaign. It's a movement. LuxGlow won't just sell skincare, they'll sell confidence." Silence. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, tapping her pen against the desk. "That's actually good." Maya felt her chest swell with pride. Rebecca flipped through the proposal. "You think LuxGlow will go for it?" Maya nodded. "They've been struggling to connect with Gen Z. This will give them something real, something emotional. If we position it right, it'll go viral." Rebecca studied her for a long moment, then closed the folder. "All right, you're coming with me to the client meeting." Maya blinked. "Wait, what?" "I want you to present this yourself," Rebecca said. "You built it. You sell it." Maya's heart started pounding. This was huge. She had assumed Rebecca would take the idea and present it herself. Yes, absolutely. Thank you," Maya stammered. Rebecca smirked. "Don't thank me yet. If LuxGlow doesn't buy it, you'll wish you never walked into my office." Maya gulped. No pressure. By the time the LuxGlow meeting arrived the following Monday, Maya was a bundle of nerves. The boardroom was intimidating, sleek, modern, with an air of exclusivity. LuxGlow's executives sat across from them, their expressions unreadable. Rebecca gave her a look that said, "Don't mess this up." Maya took a steady breath and started. She spoke passionately, confidently, weaving her research with storytelling, bringing the campaign to life. She could see the LuxGlow execs leaning in, intrigued. When she finished, there was a pause. Then, the CMO of LuxGlow, an elegant woman with striking gray eyes, smiled. "This is exactly what we've been missing." Maya barely contained her excitement. "We're in," the CMO said. #GlowWithConfidence. Let's make it happen." Rebecca smirked at Maya as if to say, "Well done." As they left the meeting, Rebecca turned to her. "You just closed your first deal." Maya exhaled, overwhelmed. Then Charles's voice echoed in her head. "You already proved yourself the day you helped a stranger." And now she had proved it again. This was just the beginning. The success of the #GlowWithConfidence campaign sent waves through Hamilton and Company. The LuxGlow executives were thrilled, and the marketing team was already gearing up for the official launch. But the biggest shock came later that week, when Rebecca called Maya into her office. "Close the door," Rebecca said, her expression unreadable. Maya did as she was told, her heart thumping. Was something wrong? Rebecca folded her hands on the desk and studied her for a moment. I won't waste time with small talk. The LuxGlow deal put you on the radar. Maya's brows furrowed. What do you mean? Rebecca slid a document across the desk. Maya hesitated before picking it up, and when she did, her breath caught in her throat. It was a promotion offer. We want to move you up, Rebecca continued. You'll be a junior brand strategist. It's a step up, more responsibility, bigger projects. Not bad for someone who wasn't even supposed to have an interview. Maya was speechless. She had only been at Hamilton and Company for a month, and she was already being promoted. This is incredible, she finally said. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca smirked. Don't thank me. You earned this. Now, are you in? Maya didn't hesitate. Absolutely. As the weeks passed, Maya settled into her new role. She had more responsibilities, direct involvement with clients, and a seat at strategy meetings with senior executives. But with the promotion came new challenges. Some of her colleagues, especially those who had been there longer, weren't thrilled about her quick rise. During a team meeting, one of them, a guy named Ethan, made a pointed comment. Guess it pays to have friends in high places, he muttered, after Maya presented her latest campaign. Maya stiffened. She knew what he meant. People still assumed her success was because Charles Hamilton had taken a personal interest in her. Rebecca, who had zero patience for office politics, shot him a glare. Or maybe it pays to be damn good at your job. Ethan looked away, embarrassed, while Maya felt a rush of gratitude toward Rebecca. But later that day, Charles himself pulled her aside. You'll face this more often, he said. The higher you climb, the more people will question how you got there. Maya sighed. I just want to prove that I deserve to be here. Charles nodded. Then don't waste time explaining. Just keep proving it. Maya met his gaze, determination settling in her chest. She had come too far to let doubt or whispers hold her back, and she wasn't about to stop now. Maya took Charles's words to heart. She threw herself into her work, determined to let her results speak for themselves. She stayed late, researched trends, and made sure every campaign she touched was innovative and effective. Over the next few months, her efforts paid off. The #GlowWithConfidence campaign didn't just succeed, it exploded. LuxGlow saw a 35% increase in sales. Their engagement on social media tripled, and the hashtag went viral. Even celebrities started endorsing the movement organically. Maya's name started circulating within the company. She wasn't just the girl Charles Hamilton had brought in. She was the rising star of the marketing department. But success also brought new pressures. One afternoon, Rebecca pulled her into a conference room. We have a problem, she said, handing Maya a tablet. Maya's stomach clenched as she saw the headline. LuxGlow's marketing campaign, genius or just another gimmick? The article accused Hamilton and Company of using fake empowerment to sell products. It suggested that the campaign was just another corporate stunt with no real commitment to uplifting women. Maya's hands tightened around the tablet. This isn't true. LuxGlow is actually funding scholarships and mentorship programs because of this campaign. Rebecca sighed. I know that. But perception is everything. We need to control the narrative before it gets worse. Maya refused to let her work be reduced to a publicity stunt. She took the lead in crafting a response strategy. LuxGlow would release testimonials from real customers whose lives had been changed by the campaign. They would showcase behind-the-scenes efforts, proving that this wasn't just marketing, but impact. Within days, the narrative shifted. The backlash turned into praise, and Maya's instincts had once again saved a major account. At the next executive meeting, Charles Hamilton leaned back in his chair, watching her with approval as she broke down the results. When she finished, he finally spoke. "You just turned a crisis into an opportunity," he said. "That's what leaders do." Maya felt a swell of pride. She had doubted herself so many times, but now she knew. She wasn't just proving herself. She was becoming someone others looked up to. And this was only the beginning. Maya's reputation at Hamilton and Company had officially skyrocketed. Clients requested her by name. Her colleagues, once skeptical, now respected her. And even Rebecca, the toughest boss in the company, had started to rely on her for high-profile projects. But with success came an even bigger challenge. One evening, as Maya was wrapping up work, her phone buzzed. It was an email from Charles Hamilton himself, marked URGENT. Subject, "Biggest opportunity of your career. Be in my office at 8 a.m. Maya's pulse quickened. What could this be? The next morning, she walked into Charles's office trying to stay calm. He gestured for her to sit, his expression serious but not unkind. "I'll get straight to the point," he said. "We're about to take on our biggest client yet, Aurum Lux, a global fashion empire." Maya's eyes widened. Aurum Lux was one of the most prestigious brands in the world. "They're looking for a new global marketing director to handle their rebranding," Charles continued. "And they want us to provide someone for the role." Maya nodded, following along. Then Charles leaned forward, a small smirk on his lips. "I want you to take it." Maya froze. "What?" "It's a temporary position," he explained. 6 months. You'd be working directly with Aurum Lux's executive team, leading the entire marketing overhaul. If you succeed, they'll either offer you a permanent role, or you can bring them back to Hamilton and Company as a major long-term client. Maya felt like the room was spinning. This was huge. "But I've only been here for a few months," she said hesitantly. "Wouldn't someone more senior—" "I don't need someone more senior," Charles interrupted. "I need someone who knows how to turn brands into movements. You proved that with LuxGlow. Now, I want to see if you can do it on a global scale." Maya's heart pounded. This was everything she had worked for. But it also meant stepping into the unknown, leading at a level she'd never experienced before. "What happens if I fail?" she asked. Voice barely above a whisper. Charles leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Then you come back here, no harm done, but something tells me that won't happen." Maya took a deep breath. This was her moment. She met his gaze and, without hesitation, said, "I'll do it." Charles smiled. "Good. Pack your bags. You're going to Paris." Maya exhaled sharply. Her life was about to change, again. Maya barely had time to process what had happened before she was swept into a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and preparations. Within a week, she was boarding a flight to Paris, where Aurum Lux's headquarters were located. As she stared out the window, watching the city lights below, a mix of excitement and fear filled her chest. This was it, the biggest opportunity of her life. When she arrived at Aurum Lux's stunning glass skyscraper, she immediately felt the weight of her new role. The employees here weren't just good, they were the best. Her first meeting was with Elena Moreau, the company's CEO, a striking woman in her mid-50s with an intimidating presence. "We're not here for gimmicks," Elena said sharply. "Aurum Lux is a legacy brand. We don't follow trends, we set them." Maya straightened. "I understand. But legacy brands also need to evolve. My goal isn't to change what makes Aurum Lux iconic. It's to remind the world why it is." Elena studied her for a long moment. Then finally, she smirked. "Good answer. Let's see if you can back it up." Maya dove into work, analyzing Aurum Lux's current struggles. Their competitors were dominating social media. while Aurum Lux still relied on outdated marketing. Their brand was exclusive, but in a world where luxury was shifting toward inclusivity, they were losing relevance. Maya's solution? Redefining luxury. She proposed a campaign featuring real people wearing Aurum Lux, not just supermodels, but artists, entrepreneurs, and changemakers. Instead of focusing on wealth, the brand would focus on impact and individuality. But not everyone was convinced. At a high-level meeting, a senior executive scoffed, "This is too risky. We've done things the same way for decades." Maya met his gaze. "And that's exactly why it's time for a change. You don't keep a legacy alive by standing still." Silence. Then Elena leaned forward, a glimmer of interest in her eyes. "Let's do it." Maya's breath caught. She had just won over the CEO of Aurum Lux. As she walked out of the meeting, her phone buzzed. A message from Charles Hamilton. "Heard you just convinced the toughest CEO in fashion. Knew you had it in you." Maya smiled. She wasn't just taking the opportunity. She was owning it. And this was only the beginning. The next few months were the most intense of Maya's career. Leading the Aurum Lux rebranding wasn't just about coming up with ideas, it was about executing them on a global scale. Her team worked tirelessly, shooting campaigns in Paris, Milan, and New York, collaborating with top designers, and rolling out redefining luxury across every major platform. Maya barely had time to breathe, but she was thriving. Then the numbers came in. Aurum Lux saw a 42% increase in engagement, record-breaking pre-orders for their new collection, and their brand sentiment shifted from outdated to visionary. She had done it. One evening, as she sat in her Paris apartment, exhausted but fulfilled, her phone buzzed. It was an email from Elena Moreau. Subject: "An offer you can't refuse." Maya's breath caught as she read the email. Aurum Lux wasn't just happy with her work. They wanted to offer her a permanent position as their global marketing director. This was huge. A corner office in Paris, a 7-figure salary, and control over one of the biggest fashion brands in the world. But before she could even process it, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Charles Hamilton. "Call me. We need to talk." The next day, Maya sat across from Charles at a rooftop cafe in Paris. "So, they offered you the job," he said, sipping his coffee. Maya nodded. "Yes, it's everything I ever wanted, but I don't know what to do." Charles studied her for a moment. "I always knew this day would come. You're too good to stay in one place forever." Maya swallowed hard. "Are you saying I should take it?" He smirked. "I'm saying you should do whatever makes you feel alive." She thought about it. Aurum Lux was power, prestige, stability. But Hamilton and Company was where she had grown, where she had people who believed in her, where she wasn't just following a legacy, she was building her own. After a long silence, Maya looked up and smiled. "I know what I want to do." Charles nodded. "Then go make it happen." 1 week later, Maya stood in Elena Moreau's office. "Let me guess," Elena said, crossing her arms. "You're turning me down." Maya smiled. "I am. But not because I don't love Aurum Lux. It's because I want to do this again and again, not just for one brand, but for many. I don't want to be locked into one company. I want to change industries, redefine businesses, and build something bigger than myself." Elena studied her for a long moment, then smirked. "You remind me of myself," she said. "Go, shake up the world." Maya returned to Hamilton and Company not as an employee, but as a partner. Charles Hamilton offered her a stake in the company, making her one of the youngest executives in the firm's history. From a girl who missed her interview to help a stranger, To one of the most powerful marketers in the world, Maya had built her success on something far more valuable than strategy or luck. She had built it on character, and this was just the beginning. Over the next year, Maya's rise in the industry was nothing short of legendary. As a partner at Hamilton and Company, she was no longer just executing campaigns. She was leading entire divisions, setting the vision for global brands, and making high-stakes decisions that shaped industries. Her name was everywhere. Forbes, Business Insider, Marketing Today, the woman who rewrote the rules of luxury branding. Maya Carter, the marketing genius who turned empathy into profit. But with great success came greater challenges. One evening, as she was preparing for a high-profile pitch in London, Charles Hamilton called her into his office. "We have a problem," he said, sliding a document across the desk. Maya picked it up, scanning the report. Her stomach dropped. One of their biggest clients, Silvercrest Tech, was accused of unethical labor practices overseas. A whistleblower had leaked damaging evidence, and the company was now in full crisis mode. "This could destroy their brand," Maya murmured. Charles nodded. "And they want us to fix it." Maya exhaled. Damage control wasn't new to her, but this wasn't just bad PR, this was a moral dilemma. "Do you believe they're guilty?" she asked. Charles hesitated. Their execs claim they didn't know, but ignorance doesn't erase responsibility. Maya had a choice. She could spin a narrative, craft a flawless crisis response, and protect Silvercrest's image. Or she could do something no one expected. The next morning, Maya sat across from Silvercrest's CEO in a tense boardroom. "You don't need a PR fix," she said firmly. "You need real change. You need to clean house, make reparations, and set new ethical standards. Then, and only then, will we help you rebuild." The CEO's face darkened. "You think we're just going to hand you a blank check to tell us what to do?" Maya didn't flinch. I think you're going to do the right thing, because if you don't, your company won't survive." Silence. Then, slowly, the CEO nodded. 1 month later, Silvercrest announced sweeping reforms, firing corrupt executives and investing in ethical sourcing. Maya had done the impossible. She hadn't just saved a company, she had forced it to become better. That night, Charles found her on the rooftop of their London office, staring at the city lights. "You could have just done the usual PR spin," he said. Maya smirked. "That's not who I am." He nodded. "I know. That's why you're here." Maya exhaled, the weight of her decisions settling in. She had power now. But it wasn't just about campaigns, branding, or money. It was about influence, integrity, impact. And for the first time she realized she wasn't just changing companies, she was changing the world. And she was just getting started. Maya stood on the rooftop, the cool London air brushing against her skin as she reflected on everything that had led her here. From the moment she stopped to help a stranger, her life had taken turns she never could have imagined. She had gone from a hopeful interviewee to a powerhouse in the marketing world, not because of luck, but because of who she was, someone who led with integrity, courage, and heart. Her phone buzzed. A message from Charles Hamilton. "Proud of you. This is just the beginning." Maya smiled, tucking her phone away. She wasn't just proving herself anymore. She had arrived. And as she looked out over the city, she knew her story was far from over. It was only the beginning of something even greater. If you loved Maya's journey and want more inspiring, powerful stories, make sure to like, share, and comment. What would you have done in Maya's shoes? Would you take the risk or play it safe? Let's discuss in the comments. For more stories of ambition, success, and life-changing moments, follow us and stay tuned for the next one.